Have you ever noticed how certain people can shift an entire room just by their presence? They don't speak loudly, they don't demand attention, yet somehow the atmosphere bends around them, subtle, controlled, magnetic. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet authority that doesn't need to prove anything. Now imagine if that could be you. Imagine if you stopped reacting to every small disturbance, every notification, every person who expects your immediate attention. Imagine if your silence became your boundary and your distance became your defense. Because here's the hidden truth. When you stop being constantly available, emotionally, mentally, physically, the world starts to panic. People who once thrived on your reactions suddenly don't know what to do. The dynamic changes, the energy shifts. Most people have been trained to control others, not through dominance, but through reaction. They press your buttons, you respond, and suddenly your peace becomes their playground. But the moment you stop reacting, truly stop, the entire system collapses. That's when you begin to understand that stillness isn't weakness, it's strategy. Carl Jung once said that nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. But this truth goes deeper. The unlived parts of yourself, the ones you constantly sacrifice to please others, are the same parts people use to manipulate you. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you respond instantly to avoid disappointing someone, you give away small fragments of your power. And piece by piece, you trade your inner strength for momentary acceptance. By the end of the day, you don't even know where your energy went, only that you feel empty, restless, and strangely disconnected from yourself. This video isn't about turning cold or indifferent. It's about reclaiming your center. It's about what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming your own complete self. And paradoxically, that journey begins not with more action, but with withdrawal. Because silence, when chosen consciously, is not absence, it's presence. We live in a world obsessed with response. Respond to the message. Respond to the comment. Respond to the mood of the room. Since childhood, we've been conditioned to believe that being reachable, agreeable, and visible is the same as being worthy. But constant availability doesn't make you valuable, it makes you vulnerable. The more predictable your presence becomes, the easier it is to use you. That's the uncomfortable truth few want to face. People often don't want you. They want the comfort you provide, the validation, the attention, the ease of knowing you'll always pick up when they call. And when you finally stop, when you take a moment to breathe, to not explain, to not rush, watch how quickly the narrative flips. You'll be called distant, difficult, selfish, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you've stopped performing the role they've written for you. In Jungian terms, this is the breaking of the persona, the social mask we wear to be accepted. It's the smile you maintain when you're tired, the no problem you say while you're breaking inside. We wear it for approval, but every moment we do, we trade authenticity for applause. And when the applause fades, we're left hollow. Being always there sounds noble, but in reality, it's a subtle form of self-abandonment. You keep showing up for everyone else while disappearing from yourself. You become an emotional resource, renewable for others, exhausting for you. But here's where your power begins to return. The day you choose not to explain yourself. The day you read a message and don't rush to reply. The day you say no without justification. That's the day you stop existing in reaction to others and start existing in alignment with yourself. Jung believed that our psyche is an energy system. Every thought, every emotion, every choice is a transaction. Energy leaves you, and it always goes somewhere. So ask yourself, where is your energy going? Is it feeding your growth or feeding someone else's control? Each time you argue to prove a point that doesn't need proving, you're spending energy. Each time you chase closure from someone who's already decided not to give it, you're spending energy. Each time you ruminate, replaying the same conversation in your head, you're spending energy. And at the end of it, you wonder why you're tired without ever having moved. Jung said, "That which we resist persists." When you fight to control every emotion, every perception, every misunderstanding, you actually keep the cycle alive. But when you learn to conserve your psychic energy, when you observe rather than react, something powerful happens. You start radiating a quiet confidence that can't be faked. People feel it. You enter a room and your calmness commands respect. Not because you demand it, but because you no longer leak energy through every small disturbance. People who don't guard their energy aren't weak. They're just untrained. And unguarded energy attracts opportunists. Manipulative, emotionally dependent, or attention-hungry people have a radar for those who can't say no. They sense your guilt. They sense your need to be liked. And before you know it, they're feeding off your energy, while you think you're helping. But the moment you start protecting that energy, something shifts. You begin to set invisible boundaries. You start saying no without explanation. You start recognizing when something is pulling your focus for no real reason. And suddenly, those who depended on your reactions start to feel uneasy. Because without your energy, their patterns can't sustain themselves. There's a darker truth here, one that most people avoid confronting. Every emotional manipulator depends on your predictability. They don't need to control you directly. They just need to know exactly how you'll respond. They know the tone that makes you apologize, the silence that makes you chase, the guilt that makes you comply. This is what Jung called projection. We don't just see others as they are. We see them through the lens of our own unconscious wounds. But projection works both ways. While others project onto you, you also project onto them. Your desire to be loved, to be chosen, to feel enough. And those unhealed parts of you make you vulnerable to manipulation. That's why when you begin to withdraw, people panic. Because now the projection fails. They can no longer use you as their emotional mirror. And in that silence, something terrifying happens. They are forced to see themselves. Your absence becomes their reflection, and many people would rather destroy you than confront their own emptiness. So they'll accuse you, they'll guilt you, they'll call you changed, but all you did was stop participating in the illusion. Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And when you withdraw, you become the mirror that forces that confrontation. Your silence reveals their noise, your peace exposes their chaos, and your boundaries show them what they can no longer take for free. That's why becoming unavailable feels like rebellion. Because it is. But let's go deeper. Why does silence hold so much power? Because silence removes reaction, and reaction is the fuel of control. The world thrives on distraction, on emotional reactivity, on quick dopamine hits that keep you unconscious. Every argument, every scrolling session, every need to prove yourself drains your awareness, drop by drop. When you choose silence, you interrupt that flow. You stop feeding the system. You redirect energy inward, toward reflection, toward depth, toward truth. And that's where transformation begins. Silence is not the absence of communication. It's the amplification of consciousness. It's what happens when your mind no longer seeks to fill the void with noise. You begin to hear yourself again, a voice that's been buried under obligation and fear. Most people mistake withdrawal for weakness, but withdrawal is often the first act of freedom. It's when you stop negotiating your peace for the comfort of others. It's when you realize that solitude doesn't mean loneliness, it means sovereignty. The power of silence is not in what it avoids, it's in what it awakens. Because when you no longer explain yourself, you stop begging to be understood. When you no longer chase validation, you stop being controlled. And when you no longer react, you reclaim time, the most sacred currency of existence. So ask yourself, how much of your life is lived for reaction rather than intention? How many of your emotions are truly yours, and how many are echoes of someone else's expectations? True strength isn't measured by how much you can endure from others. It's measured by how much of yourself you refuse to lose in the process. When you start choosing your peace over participation, people will misunderstand you. They'll call your calm coldness. They'll mistake your silence for distance. But that's only because they're used to accessing you without permission. Let them misunderstand. Let them wonder. Because mystery has always been the language of power. In a world where everyone is shouting, the one who speaks last, or not at all, holds the real authority. You don't owe the world your constant availability. You don't owe everyone an explanation, a reaction, or a performance. What you owe yourself is presence, deliberate, protected, sacred. So the next time your instinct is to reply instantly, to prove your worth, to explain your silence, pause, breathe. Let the discomfort stretch for a moment, and remember that every second you stay grounded instead of reactive, you're taking back a piece of your energy. Because in the end, peace isn't found in conquering others. It's found in mastering your own response. When you stop being easily accessed, you stop being easily controlled. And when you stop being controlled, you finally begin to live. Not as a reflection of the world, but as a reflection of your own depth. So withdraw. Stay silent when it matters. Protect your energy as if it were your soul, because, in a way, it is. And one day you'll notice. The world no longer shakes you. It moves around you. That is the quiet, unmistakable power of becoming untouchable. The power of withdrawal. The power of silence.